Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our two-day conference on modern Iranian thought and society. This would be the first day, and the Jews of Iran on the second day. I am Uzi Rabi of the Department of Middle Eastern African History and the Center for Iranian Studies, and we would like to start with some greetings. I shall call upon Professor Raanan Ryan, the Vice Rector of the University, to say some words to welcome you. Please, Professor Ryan.
Thank you, Uzi. Shalom and good morning to all of you. I take great pleasure in opening this international conference on modern religious thought and society in Iran. Most people who follow the foreign news section in the daily newspapers have read about international efforts to reward Iran if it suspends uranium enrichment or penalize the country if it doesn't. They have also read about all kinds of anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist declarations of the current president of Iran. But most people know little of Iran's modern history, let alone its distant history. A few days ago, I read an article in the New York Times entitled "The Persian Complex," written by a professor from Yale University. Presenting a different perspective on the contemporary crisis, this professor reminded his readers that we tend to forget that Iran's policies and insistence on its sovereign rights form part of a national pursuit for empowerment, a pursuit marked by at least 2 centuries of foreign military aggression, domestic meddling, and not least technological denial by the West. Every school child in Iran, and I'm quoting from this article, knows about the foreign-sponsored 1953 coup that toppled Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. Even an Iranian with little interest in his or her history is conscious of how Iran, throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, served as a playground for several imperialistic powers. Iranians also know about the era from the 1870s to the 1920s when Russia and Britain deprived their country of even basic technology like the railroad, which then was a key for economic development. Not long after, a similar Western denial of Iranians' economic sovereignty resulted in a dramatic showdown that had fatal consequences for the country's fragile democracy and left lasting scars on its national consciousness. The oil nationalization movement of 1951 to 1953 under Mossadegh was opposed by Britain and eventually by its partner in profit, the United States. Mossadegh was tried and sent into internal exile, and Mohammad Reza Shah was reinstalled largely to safeguard American interests. A quarter of a century later, Americans were taken by surprise when an Islamic revolution toppled the Shah and transformed a country that seemed so friendly to the United States. I do not pretend to be an expert on Iran, you are all the experts, but it seems that the Iranian collective memory is infused with such themes. Since the early 18th century, Iran has been involved in 4 devastating civil wars in which the Turks, Afghans, Russians, and British played major parts. And before the arrival of Western powers, Iranians had held bitter memories of the Ottomans, the Mongols, and the Arabs. These intrusions punctuated the Iranians' modern historical narrative with conspiratorial fears and have helped to nurture a cult of the fallen hero or the martyr as a national symbol of defiance. This is, of course, in no way to justify the current policies or declarations of the Iranian leadership. But it calls for an extra effort on our part to know better Iranian history and rich culture, as well as the Jewish experience in this country. And this is exactly what our new Center for Iranian Studies has started doing. Therefore, I would like to congratulate Professor David Menashri, the founding head of this center, and his colleagues for their endeavor, and to wish you all an interesting and fruitful dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ryan. And the next speaker for the greeting session would be Professor Menashri, who I know is known for you all. He's the head of the center. Please, Professor.
Thank you, Uzi, and thank you, Professor Ryan. As I told my friends in the center that after opening this center, the only thing that we can do is to do our research and try and train our graduate students and produce science and scholarship. So the less we speak now is the better, and that giving the floor to the experts and the scholars to share with us their knowledge. One word about the center, and I'm glad that we are combining the 2 days together. I promise not to do it in the future because it's too much work to try and combine 1 day about Iran and 1 day Jews of Iran. It's too much for a young center, which doesn't have enough experience in running conferences. But the idea of the center is to try and study not only Iran but also the Jews of Iran. Unfortunately, in this country, if there is any place that the history of the Jews of Iran should be studied, it's the state of Israel. We don't mind getting money from Beverly Hills, but I think the studies should be done here. And the center, the libraries, that now we are trying to really make Tel Aviv University the major center of Iranian Jewish studies. And we are on the way of receiving 3 major libraries coming Israel soon. So I believe in the next few months, during the summer, we'll have the libraries in place. Iranian studies per se has been really developed in Tel Aviv University, as many of you know. We now have the opportunity to use the facilities and the funds available for us to promote it further, which brings me to say a few words of thanks. First to 2 dear friends who really helped establishing this center. Lord David Alliance from London, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but he is with us every day and is willing to support, and he's a very generous and nice gentleman. And the other David Meiraj and Liora Meiraj, that joined to David Alliance and together funded this center. They too could not be here. They have been here 2 months ago, and they will be here another 2 months, so it's too much to ask them to be here. But the 2 are the major figures behind the center. To this conference, there are other groups that supported us. The Public Affairs Office of the American Embassy in Tel Aviv. Is Anne here? Not yet. She'll come later. The Parviz and Puran Nazarian Chair for Modern Iranian History. Maliheh and Jamshid Kashfi Project on Iranian Jewry, which is at Tel Aviv University. As some of you know, Jamshid Kashfi was the Jewish representative in Iranian parliament. He passed away and he left us some money to promote research in the field of Iranian Jewish history. Department of Middle Eastern Studies, Maccabim Foundation, that provides scholarship to students, and in June 15 there will be a huge meeting of the annual meeting of the Maccabim Foundation, and Queen Esther Foundation. The Director General is here, Anat Gilad, that helping Iranian immigrants, but not only Iranian immigrants. And finally, the Daniel Abraham Center for International and Regional Studies. It's chaired by Professor Ranan Ryan. So as you see that we are trying not only to do things, but also to bring with us other groups to advance this rather important field of study. With us today is also, in addition to the guests that you will get to know them one by one while they are speaking in the next 2 days, is Mr. Nissan Khakshuri, who is the president of Iranian Zionist organization in Israel. I mention it because we also believe that you will help us to promote this issue, and it's very dear to you. Behind this program, you have the president of the state that's really helping us to promote it, and there are many people interested. I think it's time that we do more in doing research, speak less, and I'll cut my speech right now to allow the proceeding of the conference to go ahead. Thank you for those who came from abroad, and thank you all who came from different parts of Israel. I see people from really all parts of the state of Israel, different universities. So welcome you all, and I hope we'll have a very fruitful meeting. One final word. There are with us people who do not want to be quoted without permission and not to be photographed. The photographers know about it. It is, as you know, there are some people who are coming here for the first time. They travel in different parts of the world. They have good connections in other countries in the Middle East. So usually the session is open, but I think that those who don't want to be quoted, they will save it directly from here, and we will have to respect it. Nevertheless, we are so delighted that they agreed to come and visit Israel for the first time. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you, Professor Menashri. We'll get straight away to the first session, and I call you, the two speakers, Professor Bourjerdi and Ori Goldberg, to come by. Just to notify you, there were some changes in the program of this day, and you could have the new version. There are some papers there with the new version up on the far side of the hall, so you can get it. This is the reason why I'm the chair of this session and not Professor Menashri. Professor Menashri and I have traded places, and I am really privileged to chair the morning session of this conference. The morning session is devoted to the issue of pre-revolutionary thought. We have two outstanding speakers who will cover the various topics of this issue, there are various aspects of this issue, and I'll introduce both of them now. Professor Meir of Syracuse University has written a lot on modern Iranian intellectual thought. He is the author of Iranian Intellectuals and the West. I know that he is currently working on a book on Reza Shah, and his presentation deals with the militant Islamic groups in Iran in the 1970s. The second speaker would be Mr. Ori Goldberg, a PhD student, one of the best of our department and the School of History in Tel Aviv University. His dissertation deals with Islamic revolution thought in modern Iran, and Ori is doing kind of a double PhD. His other PhD is in the he's dealing with that in the Faculty of Law in Tel Aviv University. So I think we had, as I said before, two outstanding speakers for this topic, and we'll get straight away to the first one, Professor Bourjerdi. And Professor Bourjerdi will talk on militant Islamic groups in Iran in the 1970s. Please.